A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 14, co-powered by Star Health Insurance. I'm Ritwika Gupta. While India has been long recognized as a global technology talent hub, the true measure of its tech evolution lies in building globally dominant enterprises. Today on World Entrepreneurs Day, we are examining the power of bootstrapped business models and the critical digital transformation journey for millions of entrepreneurs. Joining me to share leadership lessons from over 3 decades of building world-class products from India for the world is Sekar Vembu, founder and CEO of Vembu Technologies. Mr. Vembu, welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow. It's a pleasure to be chatting with you today.
Thank you, Ritwika, for having me.
So India has emerged as one of the world's leading technology talent hubs. What do you believe it will take for India to become equally known for building global companies, especially in the software space?
I think right now we are, as a software industry, we are pretty good in services, and in application software, we are doing reasonably well, but we still do not have globally dominating companies. We have many companies doing reasonably well, but not globally dominating companies. So in order for more dominating software companies, especially enterprise software, I think we need a much more vibrant domestic market. So if you have to build from India, you need all the talent in India. So you need a domestic market from which people learn. Entrepreneurs have to learn from the market, being close to the customer. Right now, if you only export to the world, so your customers are all outside India. So you need to have people, product management talent living close to the customer. So the more our domestic market improves, I think there is a lot more opportunity for entrepreneurs to create more software. So that is the main thing I would say.
Mr. Vembu, you have championed the bootstrapped approach to building businesses. At a time when fundraising often dominates the startup narrative, do you believe founders have become too focused on capital and not focused enough on building enduring businesses?
Yes, I won't blame the founders alone. See, in the last 10-15 years, there is a lot more capital available in India and globally. So that why that capital is available is a different question. So a lot more capital, a lot more venture capitalists chasing returns and entrepreneurs. And there is a culture that has set in where everybody has to raise as much as possible and then build and scale as quickly as possible. So that kind of culture has happened in the last 10-15 years. I think it's more to do with the entrepreneurs basically have peer pressure. If you are going to build a bootstrap, then you have to take a long road, and finding talent for a bootstrap company is harder. So because the talent is getting more and more competitive, they have much more opportunities. So it's a lot of things coming together, putting pressure on the entrepreneurs who want to build for the long term, who want to bootstrap. So that culture, I think, will automatically change because with the global uncertainty that is happening, the economic situation globally and the geopolitical situation, I think there will be some kind of reset that happens. And you will see that entrepreneurs, obviously, the more those who take the long-term view, those who are patient about building, I think they would come, and that will become more fashionable in the future. Right now, in the last 10 years, it's like the culture is like go big or go home is the culture. So there is no, for bootstrap companies, it's much harder to retain talent, hire talent, and then play the long game. So that probably it's just the culture. I think it will just change as the market changes.
Now, India has millions of MSMEs undergoing digital transformation. How can enterprise software become more accessible for small businesses that often lack dedicated IT teams?
Yeah, so a lot of the MSMEs, there is a wave in India in terms of going digital. Every company is going digital. The future is digital, and a lot of AI happening. So that is actually creates a lot of opportunities for domestic software companies and even service providers, like managed service providers to cater to these MSMEs. So the smaller MSME, the micro or the small enterprises, so finding IT talent and doing everything on their own is somewhat harder because IT talent is expensive.
Sure.
So we see if you see the developed markets like the US and Europe, there is this concept called managed service providers. Managed service providers actually are the outsourced IT arm for the small businesses. So who take care of everything IT for small businesses. I think our MSMEs will have to rely on these managed service providers. I expect such businesses to come up in India a lot more. There are a few already, but a lot more small businesses who cater to who are an outsourced IT shop. When I say outsourced, it is not software development, it is IT management. Everything IT is managed by an outside IT team, where it becomes much more cost effective for small businesses to afford the latest that is happening in IT with AI and everything. The other thing is with AI, everything is now going to get simple. So AI is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting in IT, and a lot of automation is happening. That means it's going, the MSMEs will not require a lot of IT talent internally to manage everything. At the same time, there'll be these outsourced managed service providers who would help them out. I think it's a huge opportunity in the next 10 to 20 years. I expect this managed service provider ecosystem to happen in a big way in India to cater to these millions of MSMEs.
And when we speak of cybersecurity, it was once seen as a concern primarily for large enterprises. Today, cyber attacks increasingly target smaller businesses as well. Has cyber resilience become a business necessity rather than an IT function?
Yeah, it is become a business necessity, especially with the AI era, where the cyber attacks are now much more sophisticated, and the AI, the bad actors can use AI to now find hacking opportunities. What used to take months, they can now do it in hours. So every business is under threat. Any business which has critical data in the computer is under threat. So from small business to enterprise. So there's going to be big change happening. So there is a lot of momentum in the cybersecurity space, especially the one is prevention. How do you defend against these threats which are more sophisticated? So you will see a lot more solutions which are using AI and getting more sophisticated as a defense mechanism.
Right.
At the same time, there is a lot more plan that has to happen in the business, where every business has to understand that an attack is imminent. It is going to happen, however sophisticated you have your security is. So you need to plan for what happens if my business goes, all the data, all my systems goes down in case of an attack. How can I come back up as quickly as possible? How do I keep the business operational when the attack happens? So there is an angle after an attack succeeds. How do you restore everything, all the data, all the systems? How quickly can you restore and come back up? Is actually a business issue rather than just an IT issue, and it's more and more becoming like that.
And how do you see AI changing the landscape, especially for cybersecurity backup and disaster recovery over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, so AI is going to change cybersecurity in a big way. That is already happening, where AI, sometimes we hear about autonomously hacking and then penetrating networks, and all that is happening in a lab. In a lab setting, it is happening. That means bad actors can exploit it to hack in real life. So the security mechanism also has to now become more sophisticated with the AI being used for detection, and then AI used to autonomously take some decisions. Like, for example, if a critical system is under attack, then AI can probably spot it much quickly, and then maybe shut down the system or take the system out of the network. So a lot more sophistication is going to come in terms of security. And in terms of backup, as I said, every business has to assume the attack will succeed, and then they have to have a plan how to get everything up and running. So backup and disaster recovery is where AI also play a big role by minimizing the time it takes for humans to intervene to prevent an attack, also to ensure that the business comes back up running from the backup data, and a lot more ways data has to be protected. For example, even our company, which is focusing on backup, we have we recommend our customers to have multiple copies of backup, multiple locations, including tape, and then there is an AI can autonomously verify whether the backups are recoverable. So a lot more process. So AI is going to make a big change in the way we do things, and that's an opportunity for software vendors and the service providers to get more and more sophisticated to handle the business issues that arise out of AI.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 14, co-powered by Star Health Insurance, in conversation with Sekar Vembu, founder and CEO of Vembu Technologies. Now, many Indian technology companies are increasingly building for global markets from day one. What advice would you give to founders looking to create world-class products from India rather than simply serving India?
Yeah. See, we have enough software talent. So in order to build for the global market, as I said before, it is you have to get deep into a domain. So especially with the AI has made building software very easy. Engineers are 10, 20 times more productive now to build software. That means there is a lot more competition that is going to happen. Everybody is going to build. That means what used to be true 10, 20 years ago in the software industry will not be true anymore, where you can create an application which is like horizontally serves everybody or like somewhat superficial. Those things will be like thousands of software companies will come around, or there will be free software. So it's very difficult to compete. So to compete globally, you have to go into a domain in depth. That is, pick a domain, go in depth, solve the complex problems for the customer, and even find a niche area initially and be the best at that instead of spreading yourself too thin. So that is one thing. Second is to have the patience for the long term, because in order to compete globally, it is going to take time. It is not something which you can just if you think, okay, in 5 years I want to do this, you have to work on it for maybe 10 years, 15 years, or even 20 years. So only in long term you can be the master of a domain, you can be the best at what you do, and you have to offer it at the highest quality, because the expectation is going to be very high, especially in the AI era. Everything is going to change. So that's an opportunity for the good entrepreneurs, because it will weed out the superficial ones. At the same time, the expectations of the customer base is going to be very, very high.
And well, one of India's greatest strengths is its engineering talent. But tell us, what more needs to happen to transform that talent into globally recognized product innovation?
Yeah, I think Indian engineering talent is plenty in India. There has to be what I call a product management talent, or customer recognizing what is the customer problem and finding a solution for that problem. So that is like from engineering, you have to move to a customer focused mindset and a product focused mindset. That means Don't look at it as an engineering problem. Look at it as a customer use case to be solved. Uh, so AI will help engineers to develop that talent. You can use AI and develop that talent. At the same time, engineers have to be prepared to be more of a multi-talented team. So you no longer have what I expect for software engineers to happen is you no longer can be a pure software coder anymore.
Right.
You have to become more of a product person where you talk to the customers, you understand customer requirements, you do so a lot of things in engineering and marketing, all of that are going to merge in the software industry. So engineers have to adapt and become play multiple roles, wear multiple hats as required. So in our own company, we have engineers now. We call them instead of software engineers, we call them product engineer, because software engineer will probably go away because AI is basically automating software building, most of it. That means an engineer has to now talk to the customer, will understand the problem, and use AI to create the solution, but verify it, make sure that it is tested, it is of high quality, ease of use. So the engineer has to think about everything now. So that transition has to happen in India in a big way. And in order for the software engineers to survive, if you're a pure software coder, then AI might just take your job easily in the future.
Mr. Vembu, you have built businesses across multiple technology cycles. Looking back over the last 3 decades, tell us what leadership lessons have remained constant even as technology has changed dramatically.
Yes, one leadership lesson I learned somewhat the hard way over a period of time, because we were entrepreneurs when we were young, like 24 years old. I was with my brothers to start a company. So you learn as you do. So one major lesson I have learned is that when you identify talented people, and then those who take responsibility and ownership, and so you let them be. You give them the freedom to make mistakes and then be on your own. You just step away. You don't micromanage them. So that is the biggest leadership lesson. You don't try to manage a talented person who's very committed, who takes ownership, who takes the responsibility. So you have to allow him to make mistakes and then learn. So in the long term, he will probably run everything for you. And that is a big lesson which I have learned. The other thing is the culture itself. A company has to have a culture, and that comes from the founder or the co-founders. And that is always, there has to be, everything points to the customer, basically. So the company exists for the customer. So every engineer, everybody in the company has to understand that we are there to serve the customer. So when the customer asks something, that gets the top priority. So the whole company culture should revolve around customers as the most important entity in the business for the success of the business. And so there has to be that continuous improvement and serving the customer. That is probably the 2 lessons I would say is always true, irrespective of how technology and everything changes.
Well, India aspires to become Viksit Bharat by 2047. What role do you believe enterprise technology and software exports will play in achieving that ambition?
I think software has to play a big role, and especially software exports too, if India has to be a developed country in the next 20 years, by 2047. So we are currently only scratched the surface in even the software space, like services and some application software is what we do. But if you take the entire software stack, starting from the firmware, where you create software which goes into a chip, which gets burnt into a chip, to the next layer, the infrastructure layer, where all the plumbing, all the cloud or the storage and networking, all those software, right, and the operating systems and virtualization. So there is a big stack. So we are nowhere near doing any of that so far. The complexity and all that is involved, the lower you go in the software stack, we rely on imported software today. Even on the application side, we have a long way to go. So software has to be a huge, so there has to be a big ecosystem of software built here across the stack in order for us to be a developed country in the future. I think that will happen because as we are growing economically, we are growing. So I expect the domestic market to become more vibrant, and more software players can focus on domestic market and learn, and that will give us the domain knowledge and the expertise to in fact compete globally. So it will happen, but whether it will happen in 20 years or 30 years is something we cannot say. A lot of things have to come together.
And finally, on World Entrepreneurs Day, if you could leave India's next generation of entrepreneurs with one piece of advice for building a company that lasts decades, what would it be?
I think for any founder, entrepreneur, I will say he has to believe in himself, have the conviction, and the company has to be his or her DNA. So every company has a DNA. Like humans have a unique DNA. Every company is unique. So the founder has to understand that there is no formula, there is no algorithm, and he or she shouldn't try to copy anyone. Like, don't copy an Apple or a Google, or just learn from them, but don't get carried away how they did it. So you have to do it your way. So every company has its way. You have to figure out what works for you. And that is one major lesson. The second very important lesson is to not get carried away by media and social media, where there's a lot of things going on, because there's a lot of information overload right now. Everybody is posting, everybody is in media. So that can get really overwhelming for an entrepreneur or a founder. Like for example, everybody says deep tech. Everybody says there is nation building and all that. But you have to look at yourself first. You have to look at your company. If you're providing jobs for 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, you get revenues for that, then you are contributing for the nation. So it is not, so nobody defines what deep tech is. You don't have to do deep tech just for the sake of deep tech. As long as you build a company, you generate revenue,
right?
You provide employment for a few people, then you are contributing. So you have to, even though you understand big picture, you focus on the day-to-day, how the business should survive, how the business, your business should thrive. So the focus should be there, rather than getting under pressure or peer pressure from media or the social media, whatever is happening.
Well, it was fantastic chatting with you, sir. Thank you so much for being on ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you, Ritwika, for interviewing me. I think you asked some very good questions. Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 14, co-powered by Star Health Insurance. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.